All right. So today, I mentioned her before that she's not quite like the others in her generation. And she's here, my daughter, Vicky. Now, she's sit there and wanted to do this with me, but what she come up with was a series of questions she found that they're supposed to ask their Gen X parents. So that's what she's going to do and go through these. And I'm probably not going to like all of them. This is what she wants to bring up and ask. So she's going to start and get going with these questions and see where this goes.
So the first one is, what was the hardest thing you have ever done?
Oh shit, the hardest thing I've ever done? Uh, I don't know. But the hardest thing I'd ever done, I'm not going to talk about. That
Okay.
pertains to you.
Oh, okay.
That's the hardest thing I'd ever done. Now, but other than that, I would have to say just absolutely picking up on a whim, walking away and moving across the country with nothing in my pocket but $5 and starting over. That would be the hardest thing I'd ever done.
Okay. How is life different now from then?
How is life different now from then? As in when I was a kid?
When you were my age?
When I was your age?
Yeah.
Well, the internet was just getting started. It had been around in kind of forms before, but the actual World Wide Web was just in its infancy. Difference was then, if you were different than anybody, you were actually looked down on, and you were treated like you were most likely a criminal if you dressed differently or looked differently or had long hair or, you know. But now it's all fad and everybody wants to be that victim that's singled out and picked on because they seem to get points. That seems to be the biggest. And also, everybody is concerned that everyone else has to be concerned with their feelings. Is the biggest difference from then to now. Nobody give a shit about how you felt about anything. What else you got? Bring it on. Bring it on.
Do you think life is more complicated now or when you were my age?
Oh, absolutely more complicated now. Has to be. There's way too much out there. You're bombarded from every angle possible 24 hours a day. You're constantly connected and wired in. I mean, you're the first generation that's 100% always connected, online, wired in, completely grew up in it from start to finish. Your entire generation. It shows. You guys have most people your age have way too big of a human disconnect and don't have the real soft skills you need to get by in the world, which is dealing with people in public or people that you've never met before and learning how to cope with meeting them or dealing with them. Example would be when you bought the desk.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go when we pull up, she had bought a desk, wouldn't do it for her online. She had to answer the questions and contact the person. She did it. But then we go pick it up and we pull into the driveway and she's like, well, what do I do now? I said, well, you go knock on the door.
It was my first time buying something off.
And yes, that was her first time buying something offline. And I said, I will guide you through it. Like I tell her everything. I will give you the information and tell you how it's done, but I won't do it for you because you have to learn to do these things.
Yeah.
So bring on the next question. Whether one comes to your head or you're reading off that list you got going. See, phone again, always. They cannot put it down.
Have you ever been arrested?
Yes. Next question.
What was your very first job?
My very first job was Paperboy. And it's not like it was now. I had actually just brought that up a couple of videos ago where I asked all the Gen Xers out there, what your first hustle was to make money as a kid, whether it be chores, mowing lawn, cutting lawn, right? I mean, if you got an allowance, that would only count if you had real chores, not just doing the dishes on Friday nights. And mine was a paper route. And we had to do our own collections. And we were actually, even at like 12 years old, you were contracted to the newspaper. You bought the papers from them as a supplier every day, but paid them once a month when you did your collections and calculated what you owed them. And then you paid them and you got to keep the rest. And if you messed up and lost the paper or destroyed a paper and had to go buy one out of pocket, you had to. It was an actual, literally running your own business, delivering papers.
I don't think it's that way anymore.
No, now they do everything, they collect, and mostly it's adults that deliver now. It's not many places you see kids deliver, and it's adults, and they'll do it in their car, or it'll be a couple, and they'll have a route that's 700 papers now instead of mine was 75.
I know someone who delivers papers.
Do you?
Yeah, she's a kid.
Yeah, but this is a small town.
Yeah.
It's different. That's not in the city. So one of the reasons it stopped is Paperboys and Paper Girls, when I was a kid, started getting robbed at the end of the month on collection time.
Wow.
And so it got to the point where they started issuing a card with your number, your paper route, and all that on it. And you would call the police when you were done. You would call the number on the card, which went to the police station, and they would dispatch a car to come pick you up and take you home. So you weren't getting robbed. I bet you Paperboys stuff would still work mostly in the cities too, if the fact that the petty crime hadn't changed and they started getting robbed like that. It's kind of sucks. Kids need that type of thing. You know, I mean, they needed the jobs growing up as a youngster. I mean,
or even walking dogs or
anything like that.
Yeah.
And especially like the paper out, walking dogs, things like that. That's all things that got young people outside too. We were outside always anyway, but that was one of the things that got you working outside. And now it's completely different. It's, you know, you're one of them. The difference is she works pretty much full time, had the same job for 2 years, and she's gone back to school to upgrade. Like I've said, very proud of her because she plans on being a nurse and she's doing what it's taking. And she's got this whole career planned out all the way as how she wants to go. And so proud. And I told her today, I'm 100 times more proud of her than she makes me 100 times more proud all the time than she frustrates me. So it's a good balance. Okay.
Well, how I was working outside was up at camp.
Yes, you did the Corps
Yeah.
and the Scouts, and it's a lot of outdoorsy. I mean,
I was up there most of the summer.
That's where you get the idea where what do you think of your own generation as a whole?
It doesn't make sense to me, most of it.
Yeah, see. But and you weren't completely buried in everything. I mean, you had the Scouts and the Corps. That was a big one because that teaches you independence and responsibility.
Yeah.
Right?
Because if we messed up, I'm not going to say it because I don't think I'm allowed to, but like there was this agreed upon thing for when we messed up.
Yes.
That like we were okay with. And like that's what happened when we would mess up. Like my glasses were lost and I didn't lose them, but another member did, and he had to I don't know what to call it, but he got that punishment for it.
And then so there you go. But that's something you agreed upon. But there should be consequences when you screw up.
Yeah.
It would be like I always threaten, well, if you don't clean the litter box, I'm going to stick it in your room when you're at work. You put it in the middle of your bed. You're going to have to clean it. I haven't done that yet because she then eventually hops right to it, sour-faced, sitting down there, scooping it. And, well, what do I do with it now? The same thing you do with it every time, child. But it's like I said, 100 times more proud than frustrated. So what do you got next?
If you could give me any advice, what would it be?
Oh, it would be a couple things. One of them I gave you, and you've gone by that. That was after your first breakup of your first major relationship. And that was take your time and don't define yourself by having a boyfriend at your age.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on getting into a relationship right away at the time either, because I don't like most of the people I know in this town in my age group because I went to school with them.
The other one, I tell you all the time, you have to think for yourself and you have to speak up for yourself. Don't let other people run over you.
Yeah.
and you would sit there and you would get frustrated, and I would be like, you have to say something, and you'll be like, oh, but then they'll get upset and tell me that I'm not taking their feelings into account, or I'm hurting their feelings. And I'm like, damn with their feelings, it's about you speaking. You don't let somebody stifle you. And I've even told you, and you speak up to me.
Yeah.
And I say, and do it. I said, you're wrong, I'm going to crush you with it. But it's the fact that you speak up. You let yourself be heard, even if in the end you're not correct. You have to speak, because then you just start getting run over all the time. We aren't going to have that for you.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be, you can only hide so many bodies from people that piss you off before they're going to start noticing people missing and come looking for
them. Going back to the whole me worrying about them saying I'm not taking their feelings into account.
Yes.
I feel like most people in my generation I don't know how to word it, but they care about their own feelings more than when somebody tries to stand up for themselves for their own feelings. And it's like,
because it's not about anything except being extremely selfish. And that's the big one I see. I mean, you had it like my generation. You didn't have people going up. You'd have people would sit there, and a lot of things were settled in the end with usually a punch in the nose. But it got dealt with, and you were done. It didn't continue. It wasn't an ongoing thing. Somebody would insult you and insult you and insult you, and then you would go and knock their nose in the dirt. And usually things were good after, and they would stop it because, well, but now it's the whole, well, it's my feelings, and it has to be about my feelings, and it's never about anybody else's.
Well, that's the thing. You know how some people, they'll go online and they'll badmouth celebrities in their comments, like in the celebrities' comments or stuff like that. And as soon as the person, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, or like those are the two main ones I think everyone's on right now.
That's the Gen Z. It's Instagram and TikTok. Everything's about 30 or 45-second bits because that's the only attention span they have.
Somebody stands up for themselves against all these people who are being rude to them online. They're the bad guys because not letting them walk all over them. And sometimes they can come off as rude when trying to stand up for themselves, but how are you supposed to respond when you're being told awful things about yourself that by people who you don't even know and don't actually know who you are?
That is going back to your question about the difference between when I was your age to now. And that is one of the differences. Like I said, you get it from every angle. That same crap happened just personally or with even Celebrity Zed. The difference now is every asshole on the planet can now attack that one person from wherever they are. And nobody has to come out and say anything to anybody's face anymore. Yeah. And it gets really bad that way. And a lot of them just want to stir up drama. And we had them same people. And you seem to have them now. And it's people all the time. And you'll see it. And it'll be people, especially in the modern age. And they'll make a post about, all they'll say is be like, I don't want to talk about it. Because they're going for that, everybody to say, what's wrong? Are you okay? They're hidden for that sympathy. People did that when I was your age too. The only difference is we called them that they were more soap opera junkies, that they were people that watched soaps and they wanted their lives to be like soap operas.
I grew up watching soap operas and I did not want my life like that. And
it really hasn't changed, but they do it now through Instagram and whatever
and
apps, Snapchat, TikTok, and all that stuff. It hasn't, the basics of everything hasn't changed. How it's being done is what's changed.
There's also, like, I think one of the differences between my generation and your generation is that now there's so many people who can make these profiles dedicated to, like, trying to get people to hate on celebrities specifically, and they'll do it with fake rumors.
Oh, all the time. They used to be the tabloid papers in the checkout line at the grocery store. That's where all that was before. And everybody knew they were fake. Because if you ever read one, in the very back of them, it actually had an ad that said we pay $500 for a good story, real or not.
Yeah, but now it's just pages on TikTok and whatnot. Like, I've seen one page specifically hating on a actress from the Vampire Diaries. It's like everyone in the comments was either, because I was like, I don't know if this is true. I don't believe it. And yeah, it's like
a lot of it wouldn't be. People, a lot of these people that do this too, they conflate who the person is they're seeing in the series or in the movies with who the person really is.
Oh.
And they make that mistake all the time.
Like they think it's the same person?
Yeah, or that they have that same type of personality.
Kind of like Monty, I think his name is Monty, from 13 Reasons Why.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, he was...
I know what the show is and what basically what it's about.
One of the football players who is, in my opinion, a giant jerk on the show. But, like, the actor himself actually was hated by people because of that character, which isn't fair. Like, well, my resting face, depending, like, it can either look like I'm mad or, as some people have told me, scared or sad. And it's
usually your mother's always asking me what's wrong. That drives me nuts.
People don't smile when their face is resting.
No.
But so many people are like, oh, what's wrong? Because you're not smiling.
So in your list there, you got another one? She's skipping through a bunch of junk that she doesn't think she really needs to ask because it's stuff that...
Oh, like, do you have any special messages for your grandchildren?
Oh, I'm going to give that to them in person. One day.
Yeah, that's why I skipped that one. Of me?
Yeah, you know what your mother did? You know what your mother used to do?
Well...
That's what grandparents are for.
Not hiding things. Like, I'll wait until they get older.
Yeah, you don't hide things, but you also don't tell them things because you don't want them to think that it's okay to just go out and do certain shit.
You've told me a lot of things, and I have never thought it was okay to go out and do that.
Yeah, well, it wasn't okay to do a lot of crap like that when I was your age. So what do you got? He's reading it first.
Who is your favorite relative growing up?
Oh, my favorite relative?
Yeah.
Gosh, that would have to be my Uncle Ron. When Dad got trucking and all that stuff, I got to go camping and on fishing trips so many times in the summer because he took me with him. And the added bonus to that was him and Auntie Mark never had any kids. So it was like they would take me all the time. We'd go camping and way up in the middle of nowhere where there'd be nobody else around. You know, and you'd canoe across a lake and then you'd portage to the next lake and then you would canoe across it and then go, and then that's where you'd camp and you wouldn't see, and it was just great. Until a tornado came in one time, knocked a bunch of trees down and we were stuck there.
Oh.
And we got up in the morning and about 7 vehicles had pulled off the road into this little grove of tree clearing where we were to hide from the storm. And all the trees had fallen over the path to get out of there. And 2 of the vehicles that came in were big 4x4s, and one of them had a couple chainsaws. So we were able to clear the way and get out of there.
That was lucky.
Yeah, that was, or we'd have been stuck.
I do know is if they are determined enough, 2 people can move a tree from the road that's blocking road, like a smaller tree.
We had ways
with an axe.
If it would have just been me and my uncle, we had handsaws and we had a come along, which is like a winch, but it's a manual crank one. So it would have took a long time, but we would have got it done. And someone would have came and checked it out because where we were technically was classed as a park, even though there was no facilities. It was still a park. So they would have went and checked the road going in to see if trees are down.
That, I understand that. Okay. I think I know the answer to this one.
All right, shoot.
Were you closer to your mother or father?
Oh, yeah. You know the answer.
Yeah.
Definitely closer to my dad. Yeah, definitely closer to my dad. Big time. Even though the last 10 years he was alive, we never spoke until the day he passed. So, yeah.
Okay. So I know your grandma didn't work, but what did your grandpa?
My grandfather, he worked. You got to remember what back then for him, you're talking 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
And work was tough. He worked for the railroad for quite a while back then, and they did railroad repair. And they would travel on the little speeders. They finally had the actual gas ones that when he started, they still, a lot of the tracks still used the old hand crank for going down the railroad. And then they got the gas ones, and they only had a shield on the front. They had no sides on them whatsoever. And they would be flying 50 mile an hour down the track. And the reason they had no sides was they didn't have a real warning system yet then for oncoming trains.
Oh, so they would just jump.
They would just jump.
Oh, okay.
So they wouldn't get hit by the train. It never happened, but that's the safety measure it was. He worked for the railroad. He worked for many farmers, sawmill, most of that stuff until he was about 55, and he was at a grain elevator and he fell 60 feet and landed on concrete and shattered his feet.
He landed on his feet?
On his feet. And
so you could survive a 60-foot fall?
You could, that? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He landed on his feet, and the doctor said that his feet looked like you threw raw eggs on the ground when he got into the hospital. They said he'd never walk again, and they try and repair his feet. And he did walk again. He just couldn't walk very much. So he retired quite early. Grandma did work.
Oh.
She did, because there was many a time, like most of Grandpa's work was away. He'd be gone all year. He wouldn't be home, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and back then it was different. Not like when I worked on the road and I'd be back every couple of weeks or on the weekend. He would be gone for a year, 2 years.
Oh.
Because where they lived and the time it was, and they had the one little shop, and they would have actual no money, and they would just keep charging and getting a bigger debt at the local general store. Bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then at the end of the year, Grandpa would come home with his pay and would have enough money to pay it. But she worked, she sold Amway, which is, it was one of these things they do now. It's kind of like, same as what they do with like Scentsy and all that stuff, but it was Amway. They did soaps and all sorts of stuff.
Okay.
And foodstuffs. And
was she ever a nurse?
No. Okay. But her medical knowledge was outrageous.
That's why I asked.
No, she could have been a nurse. She could have walked into a hospital and nursed, no problem.
She could have been a doctor.
I mean, she patched me up so many times. Especially them few years that I lived with them. They patched me up so much. But she did work. And traveling saleswoman. She would drive around all day, and she would sell when she finally got her license. That wasn't until her kids taught her to drive. They didn't own a vehicle until then, until Auntie Bev bought her first car and then bought a second car and gave her first car to them. Oh. So they've never actually paid for a vehicle. They never did. Her kids always gave them a car.
Is Auntie Bev the oldest?
No, Auntie Bev would be now the youngest. My dad was the youngest. Auntie Bev is the next youngest, and then it's Auntie Judy and Uncle Ron.
Oh, okay.
But Auntie Bev's the one that lives at the lake, in a lake house. Nice big place, nice property. They all have too much bloody money, if you ask me. Next question.
Do you know why your parents gave you your name? Were you named after anyone?
I do know why I was named what I was named. I was specifically because, given our family and our background and the tradition, everybody was given a family name and a biblical name.
Okay.
So my first name was taken straight out of the Bible. And then I have the same middle name as Uncle Ron.
Oh, okay.
So then that's how that was determined. That's slowly gone by the wayside now, but it was very strong that way in the family. But that's that, that whole German, Hutterite, Amish, Mennonite background. Right? It's very, very biblical. It also means, everyone always gets the meaning wrong. They think it's one who is close to God or that, but it says no. Its actual translation is one who is like God. So I grew up with a bit of an ego.
Well, people could think it's like the whole close to God because of the archangel.
That's precisely it. Yes, and that's where people get it confused, right? But it's actually one who is like God. And I'm like it. So I'd use that in arguments with my dad sometimes when I got in trouble. And I'd say, well, I could do this. And he'd be like, well, what do you mean? And I'd be like, well, it's okay with God. And he said, how would you know what God likes? And I'm like, I'm one who was like God. You named me it. So, and he'd just be like, oh, he'd get so frustrated. Couldn't argue with him when it came to that, when a man that went off to college to be a minister. So it was pretty hard to beat him when it came to a theological debate.
Yeah. Okay.
So what you got?
Can you name all the places you have lived, and do you remember the addresses?
No, I do not. I don't remember any of the addresses.
I used to have...
The only one I remember is the one where my sister's still at now because, well, mail stuff there. It's where they live. But no, other than that, I don't remember. I used to know every single phone number we ever had. But I have the same problem with the one phone number as I did back then. Because we still had party line phone when I was a kid. Everybody's phone on the block would ring at the same time when a phone call came in, and everybody's ring would be slightly different. If it was for our house, it was 2 short rings. If it was the neighbor, it was 2 long rings. If it was the guy beside us, it was a long ring, then a short ring. The other person was a short ring, then a long ring. Or 3 quick rings, and it would be like ring, 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 and then the pause, and then ring, and then you would know that it was for your house. And I couldn't get our ring correct, so I was always answering the phone whenever it rang, and it wasn't for us. I get confused with our phone number when I was very small, because ours was 5905 and our neighbor's was 5909, and the one other neighbor was 9505. And yeah, and I was friends with their kids, and I would always get the numbers mixed up.
Have you ever called your own house doing that?
You could sometimes at the party line. It would work that way. Yeah, it was weird, and that lasted till I was about 12, and then they finally brought in the rest of the phone system, connected us to the modern world.
I've lived in 3 places that I remember. Mom claims I have lived in 4 because when I was born.
What? No. 1, 2, 3. This would be 4.
Yeah. No, this would be 3.
This would be 4.
Okay. 3 places that I remember.
Yes, but this would be 4.
Yeah.
Because there was the house that you lived in when you were born.
And I used to know the first one's address. I had it memorized, especially the first few years after we have moved
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I can remember the address of the last house I lived in. But this one is like the only one I can actually remember.
Because you're always getting packages sent here. This kid shops online like she's taking a break lately, but then all of a sudden shit'll just show up at the door all the time. You go out, come home, and there's more crap at the door.
It's not here than the post office.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, all of a sudden you get a whole bunch of them. And then once in a while, a big package will show up, and I'll be, what the hell is this? And it's for me. And I'm like, I don't remember ordering that. I sometimes buy stuff by accident. Yeah. Yeah, the grill. Nice big professional flat cooking grill. Yeah, I bought it by accident.
Use it a lot. Oh,
so we do, but I mean, it was. I did want to buy it. I just hadn't intended on buying it then at that time because I didn't have the extra money to throw out for like $500 for a grill. I ended up accidentally buying it anyway, and by the time I realized it, it's too late, and I might as well.
Great teacher.
Oh, her name was Mrs. Reynolds. She was my 3rd and 4th grade teacher. Because I went to a school where it was 2 grades in a class.
I've only done that once.
Yeah, grades 1 and grade 1 was split into 2.
Yeah.
And you had kindergarten and part of grade 1 in one class, grade 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6. And when I was in grade 4, our school actually got a gymnasium finally built onto it and a library. We literally did not have any of that stuff. But yeah, Mrs. Reynolds, she was the greatest teacher ever. She lived 5 miles out of town and she ran to school every morning.
Even in winter?
Even in winter, unless it was super cold. And when she ran to school in the morning, her husband would pick her up and drive her home at the end of the day. But yeah, no, without a doubt, that was my favorite teacher. Close second would have been my grade 8 teacher, Mr. Emery. He's the one, I've told you the story where that kid, the Chinese kid that sat in front of me, would always turn around and mouth me off, and I couldn't understand him, and he'd laugh. And then one of the other girls in class would translate. And he kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And one of the reasons he became my favorite is this kid got on my nerves so bad one day, he turned around to say something, and I punched him. And he immediately threw his hand up and hollered, and he's like, Mr. Emery, he just hit me. And he just looked at him and said, obviously not hard enough. You're still talking.
I have not heard that story.
No, he was my second favorite teacher. Welcome to childhood as a Gen Xer. Even the teachers were in on it.
My favorite teacher is the one I have right now, but also the son of your elementary school principal.
Yes. Small world.
Yeah.
Live in a completely different place. And a little brother of a girl I went to school with, whose father was the principal of my elementary school, is like the vice principal at her high school.
He is now.
Or he's now. Yeah. Now, I mean.
He was just a teacher before, and he's a great teacher and a great vice principal.
His father taught 5 and 6 and was the principal at the elementary school I went to. So it just runs in their family. He looks a lot like his dad, by the way. So what do you got next there? She's got a huge list of questions. We're going to be here all day. I'm going to have to bust this into 2 videos, I'm sure.
Have you met anyone famous that you haven't told me about? Because you told me about that one lady.
Oh, I told you about the singer at the park?
Yeah.
The Walker dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into her lots, but because to take the dog there too. Mm-hmm. And never said a word, never talked to her because she's out walking her dog, wanting to be left alone. I don't know why people harass, celebrities when they see them.
Because the world doesn't, because they're famous, the world doesn't really think they should have privacy, I guess.
Very true.
When everyone deserves privacy. Like, there's people who are broadcasting their lives on TV, like the Kardashians, and even 2 TikTokers, they're sisters. Their family has a show on Disney now.
Yeah, I have. And it would all depend what you would call famous. Famous for the time or famous for what they specifically did.
In general.
Met a couple of the greatest hockey players of all time, including the great one himself, Wayne Gretzky. Yes, my stepdad was driving cab and had him in the cab and actually asked him if he could detour by the house so I could meet him. And he said yes. So he was an amazing man back then and willing to take a detour in a taxi so a little kid could say hi and meet his hockey hero. So, there's that. And a few other people, mostly you just see them randomly.
Yeah.
Because, I spent quite a few years living next to a major movie studio. So, I see a lot of celebrities.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And, well, that would be before your time. So, and then I came back here. Then you happened. So, it's a much different time. But you'd see him out for lunch and wandering around or Um, I know one time it was actually just on a hike in a park, and not anybody famous, but everybody heard of a new show that was going to be on, and nobody knew for sure if it was actually going to happen or not. And me and a buddy of mine, we'd go on hikes in the parks. We come on this side trail through this park, and I guess they didn't block it because turned out it was a TV set. They were doing a big film shoot, and we come walking out of this trail, and there's this van sitting over there with a couple aliens sitting on the bumper eating lunch out of lunch kits, fully decked out, fully done up, and
what was the show called?
That was for that Stargate universe. Yeah. And we walk out, and yeah, just a couple of aliens just chilling out, having some lunch. We're just like, oh, wrong place. Did that one other time with my mother. Went to go visit my mother. One of the few times I decided to try and reach out again. Anyway, we're walking through a park and everything, and we walked out into the middle of the Planet of the Apes set. Not realizing we come again. It was like an old trail that nobody used anymore. I guess it was more of an animal trail, but it was such a massive park. Nobody paid attention to that stuff. And we walked right out and we were like, what's going on? What's with all this stuff? And then they had to take us off. Got stuck in a traffic jam when they were filming the X versus Sever movie, which was Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu. And we got stuck in traffic, and it just happened to be in the right spot. We got to see them film their great big action scenes with the big shootout and everything, and the parts where they were actually filming. So that was kind of cool.
Like to witness something like that.
Oh, and I'm sure you will. But then they might not make movies at all like that anymore. I mean, all the new movies just might be enter everything you want into a computer, and an AI will do the whole thing.
AI is stupid. So many people are in my age group are stupid with the AI because I had an assignment, and I do schooling online, and my teacher emailed me saying that my assignment got flagged for AI detection, and I didn't use AI or anything. And
test to that, this kid writes her own stuff because she stresses about it for 2 weeks, and then I'm like, are you done yet? And she gets even more frustrated.
Well, yeah, but if anything, like, they'll give you like a chance or two.
Didn't they turn around and approve your paper, but you rewrote it anyway? Didn't
I had to rewrite another one?
Okay, but didn't your teacher get him to, in the end, say it's acceptable?
Yeah, no, I just had to call her and explain that I did not use AI, and my teacher who ran the classroom, he testified for me about it and whatnot. I had to rewrite a different one.
Long time, I guess. Lexi, sit down. You're not involved. Hey, come on, sit.
But I don't understand. But because of how common AI is, they have to put every assignment through an AI detection, and if it is detected as AI, possibly written by AI, then you could just fail that assignment and they won't give you another chance.
So,
who are your best friends growing up? I think I've met some of them.
Yeah, they were the ones that I met. Wang, 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 wang. Can't imagine what kind of sound that makes me have to edit out now. No, yeah, you met the ones that I met when I in my teens. Lexi, come on. Trying to talk here. And really wants to be involved. But you have well, the one, Eldon, we're not friends anymore. I still talk to him once in a while, but I just can't. The guy has not changed. He's still exactly the same, like 100%, like didn't grow up. Personality is the same. It's just, Yeah, he's the one that kept joking that
Yep.
he would have a girlfriend, and then a couple weeks later he'd be talking about how he has to find a new girlfriend while the other one's gone. And then I so badly wanted to get on his Facebook page and comment, dude, you have to stop killing them. But I didn't because, these days, next thing you know, there's a whole big investigation.
Yeah.
So there's him. Clearly, you've met my absolutely best friend on the planet.
Yes, I have.
And
took me to a demolition derby with him.
Okay, demolition derby, yes. But we were 19 when we met. So, like I told you, probably your greatest friends that you're going to have through most of your adult life are probably people you haven't met yet.
Which I'm completely okay with that.
You'll have some people that you'll periodically have contact with, or you don't have contact for a long time, and then you do. But even one of my other ones, I mean, I don't talk about him all the time, and he's the one we mentioned in the stories, right? Your mom always talks about that. If we hadn't seen him in so many years, that if we told him that it was me and your mom were now together and you were our child, that he would be like, I fucking do it.
I thought that was a female.
No, Spokes.
Oh, okay. That's
no. The female was the girl that I was dating when first ever met and had contact with your mom, and she just didn't believe me that there was nothing going on with me and your mom, and there wasn't. I'm not that way.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you've met them, and you've met most of my good friends. Yeah. Devin and Joe, and well, you've seen Devin, you didn't meet Joe. Erin, Keena.
Yeah.
She immediately wanted to set you up with her son.
I sit down with them, and she calls out her son from his room, and she's like kind of subtly trying to be like, okay, here you go.
Yep. Oh yeah, she would try so hard, and it wouldn't get so subtle after a while.
No.
We were there for 3 days. By the third day, she would already be standing up marrying you two while you were sleeping. And she'd be like, do you agree? And she'd be nodding your head, And then she would push for beautiful grandkids. And I'd be like, not yet. This child's got a career coming. So what's the next one? You still got some more in there?
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, well, if you go by the very first thing they ever had on school record, which they threw in my face going all the way back. No, it was a brain search.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, because you told them, I'm pretty sure like a week later I wanted to be a fire truck.
Yeah, I was like 5. I wanted to join the military, but...
I remember mentioning something about that.
Yeah, I wanted to join the military, but that didn't work out. So yeah, and then after that, I pretty much wanted to run the largest, most powerful corporation or criminal organization in the world. Weird dreams to have, huh? Oh, I thought if things go so bad and I have to resort to a life of crime, I'm going to be the damn best in the world. Didn't work out that way. Instead, I became a damn good carpenter.
Yeah.
So, what else you got there?
What was your first car?
1967 Impala. Sorry, correction, pre-gen. Looks a lot like the Impala.
It's like Dean's car in Supernatural, kind of?
Sort of, but it was a 2-door.
Yeah. I haven't seen actual 4-door Impalas like the one on Supernatural in person. Like, I had, like, an old neighbor had an Impala, like an old Impala, and it was a 2-door.
Car's still around. My friend Devin, his brother, James, he has it. In fact, I tried to see if I could get it back from him.
That one.
Yeah, and James is going through a hard time, and I asked his brother if he would sell it, and he said, well, he's having to unload everything now. Ask him if you can get it. He'd probably get it cheap. And I said, I'm not going to kick a man when he's down, because he wound up with the car because he was helping my dad out in a pinch. Didn't have a vehicle, needed one, so we traded it for Bronco. Straight across trade to the guy. Would be nice to get it back. It's a lovely car. Them old cars, man. They drive like beautiful boat tanks. They glide down the highway.
I've I've been in an old Trans Am. I want to say it was like a 70s or a late 60s. I almost said late 90s. That's a big difference.
Yeah, no, the difference is the 60s and the 70s model. And the 70s and 80s models there, they have that real pointy look. The 60s are quite different. TA some.
I think
you got the Trans Am.
It was like a 70. It was like a 72 Trans Am. It'd be
most likely.
And it was rebuilt. And my ex, I was with at the time,
it was his dad?
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't running for like the first few years. And then the third year we were together, it was running, and we were able to take it out a couple times. It was nice.
So what else you got there? No reminiscing about the ex.
What are your favorite songs? I was reminiscing about the car.
Yes, she says, I wasn't dating him for the car because it wasn't actually his.
Oh, no, he didn't even have a car.
Yeah, see, there you go. There you go. What are my favorite songs?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I actually have any real favorite songs. Oh, maybe Bang Your Head by Quiet Riot. 18 in Life by Quiet Riot.
Are they all by the same?
No. Massive Iron Maiden fan here, as far as I'm concerned. They're the greatest metal group around, except for maybe Judas Priest. So, what else?
What made you successful at work?
Drive my determination to absolutely be the best at anything I go and do. I cannot handle going into something and end up being the mediocre one in the group. I have to be at the top. The only problem is if you become the top, kind of lose that motivation.
Well, there's always going to be someone who is better at you at something.
There is, but you can't try and outrun them. You can only try and catch them, right? If you're trying to outrun somebody that's coming up because they're better than you, you're holding them back. And if you're holding them back, you're probably hurting the business. So you have to wait. And if they pass you, then you just got to fight that much harder to get your spot back. That would be what they said about Elon Musk. Okay, his businesses, he is the most miserable when there isn't a crisis or problem to solve. If he is buried under business problems, he is having the time of his life because there's always something to beat, dominate, and achieve. And that's how I feel.
He thrives in chaos in a way.
Yes. Chaos keeps me calm. It's when everything goes smoothly that I worry.
Yeah, because it's like life always balances out. There's going to be good times, bad times, and neutral times.
It does, and it's gonna whack you.
That's the way. Like, I knew that from for a while, but the only way I was able to put it in words is from Teen Wolf.
She likes her teen TV references, I tell you.
I do.
It's the same at the dinner table, and I'm like, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. But she explains it, so here you go.
Try my best to explain it. But at the beginning of season 5, I think, it's the main character and his best friend, Scott and Styles, are talking, and Scott's worried that something bad's about to happen because they had something really good. It was neutral for a while after having something bad happen, and I think some good. And then he was like, life has to balance out. So when is it going to happen? He knew something was going to happen, but he was not prepared for it, even though he knew.
So what else you got there?
What's a moment that made you feel incredibly humble?
Shit. I don't know. That's not to say I'm not humbled on a regular basis. I've been put in my place lots in life. What else you got there? She's skimming through them because there's a lot of useless ones she doesn't want to ask. Or things she already knows the answer to, so she's not going to put me on the spot. If I try and change it, she'll call me out and say, hey, that's not what you told me before.
Okay, which 3 words best describe how you want to be remembered?
Oh, shit. Crazy. As in entertaining crazy.
Entertaining crazy? Like,
Yeah. I I want to be remembered that it was
like,
always it was never it wasn't a dull moment if you were out with me, that it was there was always something entertaining
okay.
happening, you know?
Yeah.
That you know,
Which, to be fair, from the stories I've heard, I'm pretty sure that's how a lot of people remember you.
if they remember, there was a lot of drinking back then.
I think the world needs more of right now.
Common sense.
Oh,
That seems to be the
definitely.
2 words of the day. The word of the day, common sense, people. That's definitely what the world needs more of.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility is another one that the world needs more of people doing and taking. So that's it. That's 2 things that can correct a lot of stuff. Common sense and personal responsibility.
I think there needs to be less people trying to make quick, easy money with all these side hustles that I keep seeing online.
Which side hustles?
There's a whole bunch of
Besides all the
things.
ones where the women are always, trying to sell themselves off. Which I
No,
don't get that because most of them don't actually make more than like $100 a month. That's the reality of that.
famous people do, I believe,
Oh,
who have them.
they'll make money, but the average one that's on there, the average when they break it all out to all of them that
Yeah.
have those accounts, it's like $100 a month or something. It's recently come out as what they make on average.
It really depends. I think if they already have a fan base in real life, depending on who the fan base is, they'll like transfer over.
Yep. But which side hustles are you talking about?
It's
Because you're
like
the one cruising around on TikTok all the time, which is where you're probably seeing them pitched.
TikTok, there's some on Pinterest. There's like digital marketing
And
or
Pinterest itself is a side hustle.
I
I
some
mean,
people do.
if
I
I had
don't.
a full complete wood shop and I was making
Oh, you'd use
coffee
Pinterest?
tables, end tables, and things like that, yeah, I would post it on Pinterest.
Oh, that explains the whole shop thing.
Yes,
Um,
but that's because it's kind of where you market your wares. If you're a crafty person, was
there's
the idea,
actually
right?
I've seen some art for like fan art for shows. Um,
Everybody
I-
thinks that they're the hot shit.
no, that I think a lot of people
Yeah,
need to realize that
that they're that what? Well, they're trying to push a side hustle that isn't real.
not
Oh,
everyone can make money from these side hustles if everyone is doing it.
only the first people make money. They had a there was
There's like a certain number. If people don't buy from more people.
That's right. There was a lot of people in the world that did like pyramid scams, and that
Oh
would
yeah.
be the typical pyramid scheme. I get a product and I start selling it, and it's selling okay. And then I get 7 other people going to sell that product, so they buy their kits from me, and then I get a percentage of everything they sell. And then they get other people and other people. Well, like the top 2, 3, even 4 tiers will make a lot of money. But as it goes down and down and down, it just gets more diluted and diluted. And the only money
Yeah.
anybody makes is convincing others they're actually going to make money when they're not.
Yeah.
And hence it becomes a pyramid scheme. Now they kind of operate in the reverse. And then they got out of it by no longer calling them pyramid. They weren't pyramid schemes. They were now multi-level marketing, which then made it legal.
I would hear pyramid scheme online and I never understood what it actually was
And
until I had to Google it. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I know some of these."
yeah, there's a lot of them. I see a lot of people pushing. I mean, that is the thing today. A lot of people can make a living doing their little niche thing out there,
Like, yeah.
right? So much so, and you can do well because you get a lot bigger reach. I mean, if I was an artist or a musician or all that stuff, I don't know if I'd want to sign to a big label because you could make a decent living just pushing it out yourself through iTunes, Spotify, downloading off your own site, pushing your own music videos on YouTube to get your name out there. Like, you don't need the big labels anymore unless you want to be superstar and make several $100 million.
Yeah, but not like I think
But
a
most of them
lot
don't
of
make that kind of money anymore.
people And I think a lot of people believe that if they can get signed, that they'll make money, but no.
You don't look like you make money, but you don't. It's the same thing with this. Everybody, you know.
Oh, it could be a similar situation to Britney Spears too, because she had no control over her money.
Well, she did it first.
At first.
And then they put her in that conservatorship where she had no control, not even over her money, but she wasn't even allowed control over her own body.
Yeah.
She was forced against her will on birth control. So that type of thing, right? And that's up in, you know, never a fan of her music, but it's that living under that for the years that she did. People got to wonder why she's a little different now that she's out of it and she's doing the things she's doing.
Because she has control over her own life again.
Sort of, yeah. She's got to figure out how to operate this control over her life again now without going off the deep end again, right? Because even before they officially took legal control, she still was at that age young enough that everybody was telling her what to do, where to go, how to do this, get on this stage, you're going here, sign this, do that, sing this song. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't want to live that way.
No, me either. Like, think of all the child actors and singers who had to live that way.
Look at how many of them they crash and they burn out, and then they wind up on
not all
and
of them.
Sorts of not all of them, like a large enough chunk that it's not anomalous when it happens. That it's because the industry, a lot of the Disney kids have happened to.
They actually went through those struggles while on the Disney Channel, some of them. And it's like, and you would never be able to tell for some of them.
Next one, what you got?
What do you believe people want most in life?
Oh,
no. Wait, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do I believe people want most in life? Well, that depends. Your generation, everybody seems to want to be a TikTok influencer. They crave them likes.
My generation does, but I think it's because it's been kind of morphed into their brains that if they don't have a following of X amount, then they're not.
So that's a generational breakdown. We'll put it this way. Okay. Your generation, what they want out of life is they want to be pseudo famous, you know, online famous and get them likes and not have to leave their room.
Yeah.
And then you sit there and then you get into millennials, Gen X, and the baby boomers. Well, what they want out of life has to do with the same thing they want out of work. Okay. Baby boomers constantly in their workplace and in what they do in life want to be told that their idea was great, that we did this and it was their idea, they did it. They want everybody to publicly know that they fixed something, did something, and they want everyone to know it.
Yeah.
And to focus on them for doing it. Millennials want everybody to always come up to them every day and tell them, you did a good job today. You did a lot of good work today.
My generation's kind of like that too.
Yours is kind of like that too, but we're going to burn them out in no time because they can't seem to handle even having a regular job, most of them.
Oh, no.
But then you ask, what does Gen X want out of it? What do they want out of life? They want to be left the fuck alone. Gen X are the ones that want to go to work, do their job, and go home.
That's what I want.
Don't want to be bothered after. Don't want to be bothered before, right? And a lot of Gen Xers, when they were going to work, when we first started getting into work and we had that attitude, we just want to come to work, do our job, and go home. When boomers were running all these companies, they would all say, if you just want to come to work, do your job, and then clock out and go home, you're working in the wrong place.
Why?
Because they had to sing. Everybody had to be friends. Everybody had to have a meeting 2 times a day. Everybody had to tell each other about, your idea was great, Frank. Veronica, that was absolutely amazing how you saved that deal yesterday. We couldn't have done it without you. You know what? Just increase my paycheck. You don't need to publicly thank me. I don't need you to dote on me for what I've done.
No, like my boss, he he has me train new people who, like, student workers who are coming to work, and he has me train them because
you do your job
yeah,
properly.
I'm good at my job.
And it annoys me when I go to where she works and I go through and I'm one of her customers because she treats us all the same.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
to people that I know.
And I'm like, why are you doing that? I just want to pay and leave. I'll see you when you get home.
People who I work with, even my boss.
Yeah, she does it to people that she works with.
Did you find everything today? And some of them will reply, and then others, they'll just give me a look like, really? No, I work here.
That's because she's got that perfect fake customer service personality down.
Found out and asked someone if they wanted their receipt when I was trying to ask something else. I've also long days I mess up my words. I told someone the time trying to tell them their total.
Find yourself one more big question because we're over an hour here, so it's going to give me a lot to edit and go through.
Okay.
Find a very big question. What do you have there? Trying to read that.
It's the bottom 4. 18 to 21. Trying to think of.
Oh.
What are you most proud in life? Proud of in life?
Well, that's an easy question. She's sitting right beside me. That's just a silly question. Because if I listed anything at all and you weren't in there, that would just be rude. And you are what I'm most proud of in life.
Okay, other than me.
Personal accomplishments aside from you?
Yes.
Okay. I would be most proud of being one of the main influences on your little cousins there, Shelby and Celine, on having proper male role models in their life. A lot of women and girls don't have them anymore, and they don't know what a guy should be like. That's right, folks. You can call that toxic if you want to, but then you're probably not watching this because you're not a bleeding hard wimp. I said it. Anyway, we have this talk all the time about the so-called misconception of what's toxic male masculinity.
And I agree. And I try and voice what I think my generation means when they say some things, when they don't understand what they're actually saying.
They use a lot of terms that they don't understand the meaning or definition of. That's the way it is.
They overuse gaslight.
Yes, they do. And then in the term, they ended up doing exactly what they're accusing everybody of by constantly convincing everybody else that they're gaslighting somebody when they're not. So what my dad used to call a self-fulfilling prophecy. You end up doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So it would be one of the most things proud of is being able to be an actual positive male role model, an actual, always believed that I was a proper man. And I put a lot of that on my grandfather. For the 3.5 years that I lived with them, you learn some real old school values when you live with people that were raised in the teens and 20s.
You have me walk on the inside of the sidewalk when we're walking somewhere.
Yes,
because it's
proper, it's gentlemanly, it's good etiquette.
And I would say you are the first male to have actually moved me from the side of the road and moved me to the inside of the sidewalk. I have walked on the outside of the sidewalk a lot, especially with guys. Like one of them I dated.
It's not proper. I constantly hold doors open for people, and it doesn't matter if it's a woman or a guy or whatever coming up. I've had one time when I was on the road working and at the one hotel, and as I was coming out, this young lady, she had been about 20, about your age, and she was coming out behind me, and I held the door. And she stormed by very rudely and snarled at me that I am an independent woman. She got mad that I held the door open. She was 2 feet behind me. If I let it go, it probably would have hit her. So I'm holding it to be polite, not because she's a woman, right?
Right.
Anyway, I was coming back after getting my food to go up into the hotel room, and she was coming in right behind me again. This time, I flicked the door shut. And she got mad. And I just looked at her and said, I thought you were a strong, independent woman. And I went to my room. So and by the way, people, that's dickish, not toxic masculinity.
Yeah, but that's also
that's Gen X getting
what she wants.
That's Gen X giving revenge or giving you exactly what you asked for, and then you don't like it.
Well, yeah. There's also I personally haven't been through it, but there have been, I'm sure a lot of my generation has seen them, but there are these text messages where they're like somebody asks for notes for class or what part of the project that they need to do, or like apologizing to someone for their loss because they lost someone or like a pet or something, and it's mostly women who are getting messaged this, like, and they're always like, I have a boyfriend. And some of the best responses I have seen were
yeah, I know he's here with me.
No, I haven't seen anyone like that. But when it's like when someone had lost like their, I want to say it was like, might have been their mom. And the girl was like, I have a boyfriend. And the dude goes, and I have a mom. So many women will be asked basic questions and they'll instantly respond with, I have a boyfriend. Like, that has nothing to do with it half the time.
Other thing that I'm proud of, talk to your mom about this all the time. Because you always have discussions and like, well, yeah, what would you do when you have a kid? Well, if this come about, I would like to think that this is what I'd do. Even if you didn't agree with it, there's some things you can't stop a kid from doing.
Yeah.
So you just provide them with the tools or make sure they're safe while doing it or whatever it is, right? And I've always been proud of the fact that I was able to always live by what I said. Always did exactly what I said I would do, whether I like doing it or not, because sometimes that's what you got to do. You have to stand by your word.
I say things that I want to do, but I don't. That's because they're not.
Like what? Like waiting a month for you to come and sit down and have a talk with me here?
No, just so
you want to do something with somebody because they've aggravated you to the point where you want to peel their face off and stick it in an anthill?
I've never said that, but yes.
No, like, I said that just now. But my mom says I'm always way too descriptive in when I say things. Or she always says you have such a unique way of describing something.
Ooh, I enjoy it. It's funny.
Well, it has to be that way. Yeah. Anyway, look at that. I finally got her to sit down. She's been wanting to do it for a long time. I couldn't get the two microphones to work at the same time, so we had to share, which worked out not too bad. I'll see if I can...
it a few times.
She would have bumped it if she had it all by herself. She probably would have whacked her forehead on it or who knows what. Whacked it with her phone when she went to read the little phone box anyway. What?
You called it phone box.
I did call it the little phone box. That's it. Put me in a home, send me out to pasture. I'm referring to a cell phone as the little phone box. It's done. It's over. I've had it. I've hit that line. I'm now old.
No, it's just... I've heard some people refer to phones as some weird things, and that was...
I was going to call it the idiot box, but that was always the television, which you could say in this house we hardly ever have on.
Yeah.
Got a great big TV in the living room, and it was turned on yesterday for the first time in probably 5 months. Well, since January. So we're talking 9 months.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I thought we used it like 1 or 2 times since.
Oh yeah, we tried.
Oh.
And we did once or twice, but I mean the thing's had like 5 hours of time on it since like January and 9 months. Not a lot of TV people unless everyone's going to bed at 9 p.m. bedtime, and then everybody watches something in their room because there's always then something to do. But that is it. I got a lot of work to go. She talked to me here for over an hour. Usually I'm about 8 minutes. I had the couple go 20. This is a long one. So anyway,
you can pick and choose.
Oh, I can. I'm just gonna edit out all the
Yes.
But time to go. We'll talk to you again. I'm gonna get her to sit down with me a few more times because I think this went way better than she thought it would. She got way more comfortable and she wasn't nervous. So let's see if I can get this set up better. So, let me know what you think. Did you sit through the whole thing or did you jump around and skip? Because I know a lot of people probably will when it's over an hour. Anyway, this is Drac and Vicky saying, till next time, peace out, everyone.